Hello everybody and welcome to this video. It's the continuation of the Sunday series and we're up to Matthew chapter 10. If you haven't done so already, please do check out the playlist this video comes from and give the video a thumbs up. So as always, we're talking through a chapter of the Bible and just discussing what it means. So Matthew chapter 10 is focusing on Jesus sending out the 12 disciples. Jesus called his 12 disciples to him and gave them authority to drive out impure spirits and to heal every disease and sickness. These are the names of the 12 apostles. First Simon, who's called Peter, his brother Andrew, James, son of Zebedee, his brother John, Philip and Bartholomew, Thomas and Matthew the tax collector, James, son of Alphaeus, Thaddeus, Simon the Zealot, and Judas Iscariot, who betrayed him. A couple of things to point out here then. This is the first time in the gospel where the disciples are called apostles, and disciples are students, but they have changed from being students now to being apostles. Now what does apostle mean? It means one who has been sent. So basically the disciples of Jesus have gone through a time of training and then they're being sent, and this is a timely reminder to us. As we looked at in the last video, the harvest being plentiful, the workers are few. There's a time for being a disciple, for learning, for reading and praying and going to church and all those kind of things. But it's not just about filling ourselves with good things. It's not just about us becoming a better person, learning lots of things. It's about being an apostle. It's about being sent to the world. Now that doesn't mean necessarily that you have to cross the sea. I heard a good thing once, you've got to see the cross before you cross the sea. But it just means that those people around you, you are an apostle to those people, you are a messenger. And it's not just about kind of us holding it all to ourselves. Let's have a little look at who these people are, these disciples. Now, I want to talk about Simon the Zealot. How do we know anything about Jesus's historical period? Well, look, there were historians at the time. This is one of them, Josephus. And these are not followers of Jesus. They're not Bible writers, they're just literally historians of the period. And Josephus tells us a little bit about the Zealots. They were extreme patriots who would die for freedom, and they would be happy for their families to be martyred for freedom. And they were constantly rebelling against the Roman government, as we talked about in the last video and the one before that. And isn't it interesting? So there's Simon the Zealot, and look who else is with him as one of the 12 disciples. We talked about this guy in last week's video, but Matthew, and Matthew the tax collector. And it's just interesting, I think, that in any other context, Simon the Zealot and Matthew the tax collector would not be together. Simon the Zealot would go for Matthew the tax collector. Remember we talked last week about how tax collectors were seen as traitors because they were collecting taxes for the Roman oppressors, often adding to the taxes to make a profit for themselves. And, you know, Simon the Zealot would be massively against him. And this is a great picture of the church. The church brings people together. If you go to a church, you'll know what I'm talking about. It brings people together who would normally never be together. But God, in his infinite humour, brings people together who are not like each other, and uses them. Now, the risk there is you've got to keep your eyes on God, because if Simon the Zealot starts spending too long thinking about Matthew the tax collector, he might get a bit stressed. But you've just got to focus on God and what he's called you to do. Also in the list, though, let's think about these people, the 12 disciples. If you wanted to start a religion that would take over the world, billions of people would follow it, how would you do that? If you had to choose 12 people, you might choose someone really, really intelligent, someone who's really, really popular, you know, a celebrity, that kind of thing. Jesus just chooses ordinary people, some fishermen, a tax collector who would have been looked down upon, a zealot, all of these ordinary people. And it's another reminder that God isn't just looking for these perfect people. You might think you're not good enough for God, but everybody is good enough for God. Have a look at my video on Matthew 1 and the genealogy of Jesus for some further thought on how we are all good enough for God. Not because of us, but because of what he's done for us. And we see that in the choice of the disciples. Then these 12 Jesus sent out with the following instructions: do not go among the Gentiles or enter any town of the Samaritans. Go rather to the lost sheep of Israel. And as you go, proclaim this message: the kingdom of heaven has come near. Heal the sick, raise the dead, cleanse those who have leprosy, drive out demons. Freely you've received, freely give. Now, some people might look at this and think this seems a bit exclusive, a bit racist. But Jesus is basically saying, don't go on a huge, far-off journey to the outskirts. Deal with the people around you. And Jesus is directing the first approach of the disciples to be to the Jewish people. But remember, here's an example with the Samaritan. Jesus himself goes to the Samaritans with the lady at the well. Okay, so Jesus himself is not excluding these groups of people. He's just imposing some order, some sort of structure to who you go to and when. But it wouldn't be okay to say, well, God doesn't want those people, because Jesus himself went to them. And we see that throughout the Bible. We saw it last week, the Gentiles, he went to the centurion and all the rest of it. Do not get any gold or silver or copper to take with you in your belts, no bag for the journey or extra shirts or sandals or a staff, for the worker is worth his keep. So basically Jesus is saying here, don't worry about your needs, your material needs. The people that you go to visit, they should support you financially. And, it says previously there, freely you've received, freely give. So it's not about kind of hoarding wealth or anything. It's just about your needs will be met by those around you. As you enter the home, whatever town or village you enter, search there for some worthy person and stay at the house until you leave. As you enter the home, give it your greeting, and if the home is deserving, let your peace rest on it, and if it's not, let your peace return to you. If anyone will not welcome you or listen to your words, leave that home or town and shake the dust off your feet. Truly, I tell you, it will be more bearable for Sodom and Gomorrah in the day of judgment than for that town. And, this is a nice explanation in the Message Bible. So there are different versions of the Bible. The Message is really a sort of paraphrase, and it just says this: when you knock on a door, be courteous in your greeting. If they welcome you, be gentle in your conversation, and if they don't welcome you, quietly withdraw. Don't make a scene. You can be sure on Judgment Day they'll be mighty sorry, but it's no concern of yours. So, our job, if we see this as a translation to what we're to do, is to go to people, but some people won't have it, and that's fine. We talked about that in last week's video as well. I am sending you out like sheep among wolves. Therefore be as shrewd as snakes and as innocent as doves. Be on your guard. You will be handed over to the local councils and be flogged in the synagogue. On my account you'll be brought before governors and kings as witnesses to them and to the Gentiles. But when they arrest you, do not worry about what to say or how to say it. At that time you will be given what to say, for it will not be you speaking, but the Spirit of your Father speaking through you. So a couple of things to talk about here. The first thing is, and I've talked about this before, Christianity is not a cushy lifestyle. If you're a Christian and if you're standing up for what you believe in, you're going to face some persecution, but don't worry about it. We all face it. Jesus himself faced it. And it says here, don't worry about what to say or how to say it. At that time you'll be given what to say through the Spirit of your Father. And I can just say that I've been in situations where people have challenged me, questioned me, debated me about my faith. And I can do everything that I can do to prepare. I can read the Bible, I can be reading apologetics, watching videos, all the rest of it, praying, going to church. But, God will give you the words to speak. God will get you through those situations. So again, you don't have to think, oh, what if people start asking me questions? I can't speak very well. God is with you in that situation. And the Spirit of your Father speaking through you. I think this word Father, we talked about it in the Lord's Prayer. It's so important to understand the relationship that God has with us. He's our dad. Now, a lot of us don't understand the context of dad. I understand that. We've ruined what dad means. But we'll talk about it more in a little bit. And I speak about it in Matthew 7 video, I think. Brother will betray brother to death. A father is child. Children will rebel against their parents and have them put to death. You'll be hated by everyone because of me, but the one who stands firm to the end will be saved. When you are persecuted in one place, flee to another. Truly I tell you, you will not finish going through the towns of Israel before the Son of Man comes. Now Jesus isn't talking about the second coming here. He's saying, look, I will be following on behind you. So if everybody isn't having it, just move on, because I'll soon be catching up with you anyway. The student is not above the teacher, nor a servant above his master. It is enough for students to be like their teachers and servants like their masters. If the head of the house has been called Beelzebub, how much more the members of his household? So this is just Jesus saying, look, I'm going to be persecuted, okay? And because of that, don't you worry if you're persecuted. It's just how it is. So do not be afraid of them, for there is nothing concealed that will not be disclosed, or hidden that will not be made known. What I tell you in the dark, speak in the daylight. What is whispered in your ear, proclaim from the roofs. So basically, Jesus is saying, look, the things I want you to say are the things we've been talking about, that I've taught you over the last period of time. Do not be afraid of those who kill the body but cannot kill the soul. Rather be afraid of the one who can destroy both soul and body in hell. Now that's not the devil. The devil doesn't have that power to send anybody to hell. That's God. Be afraid of God. And that healthy fear is so important. I talked about that in the Lord's Prayer video. And not 2 sparrows sold for a penny, yet not one of them will fall to the ground outside of your Father's care. And even the very hairs on your head are all numbered, so don't be afraid, you're worth more than many sparrows. Now, interesting contrast here, because Jesus is talking about the persecution we're going to face as Christians, the trouble we're going to endure, but then he makes it very personal and says, look, I know how many hairs are on your head. Now, that's an easier challenge with me than with some people, because I don't have many hairs on my head. And this reminder of the word Father, the Father who loves his children. I am a parent to 2 boys, but I don't know how many hairs are on their head. God knows everything about us, even these trivial, sort of seemingly pointless details. He knows everything about you, all your thoughts, all your dreams, all your hopes and ambitions. When you've been hurt and when you've been full of joy, he knows it all. And that's the great addition to this idea of persecution, is that God knows us intimately and is with us. Whoever acknowledges me before others, I will also acknowledge before my Father in heaven. But whoever disowns me before others, I will disown before my Father in heaven. So in other words, if you become a Christian, then at the end times, Jesus will say, yep, he's one of ours, up to heaven. But if not, if you deny Jesus, Jesus will deny you. Do not suppose that I have come to bring peace to the earth. I did not come to bring peace, but a sword. For I have come to turn a man against his father, a daughter against her mother, a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. A man's enemies will be the members of his own household. Anyone who loves their father or mother more than me is not worthy of me. Anyone who loves their son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me. Whoever does not take up their cross and follow me is not worthy of me. Whoever finds their life will lose it, and whoever loses their life for my sake will find it. This sounds so mean, but really what Jesus is saying is very clear, which is that there is division in your life when you become a Christian. And you'll know about this if you're a Christian in a family where other people aren't Christians. There becomes a division. That your family don't understand. They don't perhaps understand. They don't perhaps accept what you believe in. There's a division. And God needs to be above everybody else. The idea of taking up your cross we'll explore in Matthew chapter 16 later on. This idea of whoever finds their life will lose it, that's explained in the Message version really nicely. Let me find it. It's here. If you don't go all the way with me, through thick and thin, you don't deserve me. If your first concern is to look after yourself, you'll never find yourself. But if you forget about yourself and look to me, you'll find both yourself and me. I think that's awesome. Let me just say this last bit again. If your first concern is to look after yourself, you'll never find yourself. But if you forget about yourself and look to me, you'll find both yourself and me. Awesome. Anyone who welcomes you welcomes me. Anyone who welcomes me welcomes the one who sent me. Whoever welcomes a prophet and as a prophet will receive a prophet's reward. And whoever welcomes a righteous person as a righteous person will receive a righteous person's reward. And if anyone gives even a cup of cold water to one of these little ones who is my disciple, truly I tell you, the person will certainly not lose their reward. So, as an apostle, the way we treat these apostles, uh, will be rewarded back to us. I hope you found this video useful. If you do watch the series, I'm sort of testing the waters with visiting some churches, whether to talk to the youth group in a similar way to this, or the whole church. And if you're interested in that, drop me an email, info@mrbruff.com.